Rory, I'm curious to get your sense of how the Munster team and management feel about this season. Like, I saw Tony Ward today in the Irish Independent describing the game as a damp squib at the end. This is from a Munster perspective. A damp squib at the very end of a mixed season if, which would be an honest, Munster flattered to deceive. And I saw Peter O'Mahony seemed very downbeat just reading his comments. You can maybe give us an insight into his demeanour, but he said we have to improve across the board. Guys have got to understand we have to take another step now in a couple of aspects of our game. And Johan van Graan then was asked about what they need to do to improve on the season that was, and he said, number one, we want to improve our skill set. And he was talking about just the mistakes, errors, basic execution. So it seemed, reading those quotes and just looking at body language even through the prism of television, like a group who feel a good bit behind this Leinster side and almost are looking at some basic mistakes as much as the big stuff like sorting out who plays 10.
They're almost unfortunate that I think getting to a semi-final in both competitions, when you write down your goals at the start of the season, is probably not a bad end of the season, particularly given the change and where they've come from. Rassie Erasmus leaving was played down by a lot of the players, but it had to be a massive thing. To undergo a coaching change in November, for everyone there, it was always going to be a massive challenge for them. And to come through that and to qualify for the European knockout stages, to beat Toulon, albeit I thought Toulon were the better team that day, but they managed that game and they managed to pull it out of the bag at the end. I think they probably, last season, I suppose they've gone backwards slightly. They got to the semi-final last season in Europe and they got to the final of the Pro 14, and they finished both of those games very disappointingly. And again, they've probably come away from both of their end games in pretty disappointing fashion. So while they've achieved quite a lot through the controversy over Gerber and Gobler, which came in a very important part of the season, and they were very upset about that. The fact that they changed coaches mid-season, they've had a couple of important injuries around in certain positions. Tyler Blindall was their number 110 and he's barely played all season. Chris Farrell, was taken from them when he was just starting to look like a real find. And yet they expect so much. And how many times in the next couple of years are they going to have Conor Murray, Peter O'Mahony, CJ Stander fit at the same time at the business end of the season? Zebo's gone. And for all that you can play that down, I think he's a massive loss.
I feel like we haven't talked about that enough, and just what a monumental loss he's going to be.
Well, Donnacha Ryan went last year as well, and just you keep chipping away at what you have. Your collective is not as strong as Leinster's. You have a couple of really strong individuals that you build the whole thing around, and you take one away every year, and you replace him. Ty Burns coming in, good signing. Is he Donnacha Ryan? He's a very different kind of player. And then they have a fullback coming in at Mike Haley, I think his name is, from Sale, who's Irish qualified. He was a good player, but Simon Zebo, there's a reason Racing Metro have gone out and shelled out a huge amount of money for him. He's a proper star. He didn't play particularly well on Saturday, but he's still able to create that try for Keith Earls. And then you go back to their basics and you look at what Connacht did under Pat Lam a couple of seasons ago. 12 passes from 11 different players went to deck or were almost intercepted over the course of the game, over 80 minutes the other day. That's just too high,
12 from 11 different players.
Yeah, and they weren't really under pressure. They were obviously they're pressure passes because you're trying to find men in space, but at the same time they're the kind of passes that were sticking for Leinster by and large, and that was a tired Leinster team. Munster had 2 weeks to prepare for that game.
Yeah.
So look, I don't think I think getting to a European semi-final, really good achievement. Their performance there probably undermined that a little bit, but you can't get away from what they did in that pool. They acknowledged, and Johan van Graan was very hard to hear during the press conference because he was so disappointed. He was almost whispering at the press conference. O'Mahony was far stronger in what he said, but Van Graan did say we need to get a home semi-final in this tournament next season, and that you do that by being consistent week in, week out, and that's where Leinster's squad came in. Ross Byrne I thought was excellent on Saturday. He filled in for Johnny Sexton really well over the course of the season. It's your squad members that get you that top spot. It's the quality of your overseas signings. It's Scott Fardy pitching up when everyone else has gone and playing Six Nations rugby. I know Scarlets went and won it away, but they're the only team who've ever done it. They've done it 2 years in a row. In this competition, the home advantage is there. So look, there's a lot in that, but I think it's the quality of player they have is not as strong as Leinster, so they've got to find another way. And if their basic skills, their discipline, 12-6, I think the penalty count was against them. Yeah. Jan Klein, stupid yellow card.
Crazy,
all these things kind of add up to a season that I think on paper is not bad, but when you take into account the way it ended on both fronts, is going to be a little bit disappointing as they go to the summer.